Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is once again another morning where I haven't had enough sleep last night, so we're going to get through this one, but it's okay because there's actually plenty to talk about, especially on Mr. Buterol leading the party, leading the charge for the last couple days now, and that is going to be a big focus of today's analysis once again. Of course, Bitcoin will be in there, but Bitcoin more or less just ranging on the whole, meaning that, well, less interesting things going on there, while more interesting things going on in the majority of altcoin land, actually. So with that in mind, I do want to wish you the best and the happiest, and into the Krown chain application we go. And once again, we see Bitcoin dominance taking another major leg down there, another 1.5% actually, which we've seen this come down steadily ever since we hit about 73% a few weeks ago, which was the actual reversal. I started to look into it this past week, and now we are seeing this start to really come to fruition. And I'd imagine that based off of what we've been seeing and what we've been looking at over the past few days, probably have a little bit more on top of that, but we will once again check out what I would consider like the altcoin index, Mr. Buterol versus Bitcoin over there. And with that in mind, do we see anything else that is of particular interest right here? Open interest is still just oscillating to and fro. We don't see any sort of major moves there. However, we have seen about 200 million added to open interest from yesterday to today. That's not anything like too significant, by the way, even though it sounds like a big number. But that is coming within the context of Bitcoin just going sideways, essentially. So what does it say? Well, we already know. Consolidation is the name of the game right now for Bitcoin, while everyone else gets to have a little bit of a party. However, we do start to see a range on the open interest start to correlate with a range on price action. Price action range pretty obvious, between about 31,000 to the downside and about 41,000 to the upside, to be exact, depending depends exactly what time frame that you're using, but around there would be about right. And open interest has been coming in from about a $5 billion base to a $6.5 billion ceiling, meaning that if we do see a further breakout, well, we'd expect to see more open interest being added on as Bitcoin does pull in the next move. So with that said, still more or less a bit of a boringness section for Bitcoin, even though it still does have these massive ranges. I mean, we've seen a range between about 37,500 and about 34,000, which is more than a $3,000 range over the last week and a half now. But compared to everything else, percentage-wise, hasn't really been all that interesting. Anyways, looking at the fear and greed index, what do we see? Coming down a couple points from 80 to a 78. Realistically, Bitcoin, well, again, just more or less ranging. I mean, I see it at 35,000 right now. It's not really anything out of the ordinary right there. Fear and greed index, once again, just kind of doing its own thing. What else do we see? Global funding rate is what I want to check on today, because yesterday we did see it a little bit near the top end, but wasn't a signal in and of itself. And yes, did come down significantly once again today. So that was right yesterday to be a little more relaxed with that. It wasn't a huge deal, and more importantly, it needs to be sustained over the course of a couple days. 3 days would be perfect. But in this case right here, we don't necessarily have that, and it just looks like another quick spike before coming back into normality. Anyways, with that said, let's go into the actual price action charts themselves. We'll start off with Mr. Buterol today. Like I said, more interesting things going on right here, right now. And we did see that leg up yesterday that we did speak about towards our first target of 1450-ish region, of which we hit 1444 actually. So it's wrong. It's $6 off. Fuck Krown. But what I mean to say is that, looking at the weekly right here, yes, I still do think that it has a chance the upside. However, there's one major thing that I'd be considering right now, and that is this: the volume signature on this move thus far is certainly not indicative of a breakout. It's actually indicative of further consolidation right here. So we haven't really seen the full-on move, so to speak, just yet. So with that in mind, I would pull it back out over here, and I would say, is this my chart with long-term things on it? No, it is not actually. Yeah, that's on my main charts. Okay, fair enough. So we'll go into that soon enough. But anyways, I still want to see price action sustained above this level. Obviously, 1,300 is now the magical number, as if you are looking at this as a breakout, which I would say it is certainly questionable right now, that would be the main level to hold. Now, it has been retested already. Actually, about $20 shy of a full-on retest at 1,300, but so far, so good. And as long as it remains above that pivot, I do treat it as still upside imposed. Most importantly, I do like the weekly Trollander band look right here, which, again, is trending above the topside Trollander band ever since... Well, ever since going all the way back here to early November. So again, very similar to read to what we saw on Bitcoin on this whole run up here, and very similar action to what we saw on Bitcoin as it did approach its prior all-time high just below 20,000 bucks, spending about 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks before the big blast off. And essentially that's kind of what I'm looking for on Mr. B-roll over here. I'd look for it to, whoops, wrong chart. Let's go to the one that has more price action history. A lot of people think that B-roll is new all-time highs. Well, maybe not if you look at it like that. But more importantly right here, well, actually we do. Fair enough. So with that in mind, what I want to see now is I want to see a little bit, a little bit of sideways consolidation right here. Obviously, within the current context of even the daily, this is still very much, still very much nice, still very much good. But I do think that we haven't really necessarily seen the actual like full-on breakout just yet. Could it be confirmed as early as the end of this week at Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time? Yes, it could be very much. If we do see a weekly closure anywhere above, basically here, anywhere above about 1360-ish region, especially 1400 would be pretty damn good as well. But either or is fine, and just kind of holding in within this region to begin with is pretty damn strong. So with that in mind, yes, do I still lean towards the upside here? Obviously, yes. However, there are a few things that do suggest that, hey, we haven't necessarily seen like the actual breakout just yet. So while it is looking pretty damn good, still needs to do a little bit more work, and I would use 1300 as a pivot now. As long as B-roll is above there, I look at this as more or less bullish and more or less just it's just going to kind of crawl its way to the upside. It's similar to what we saw on Bitcoin as it does enter into new all-time high territory, aka price discovery, and well, that's usually the fun part. So with that in mind, do we see anything here on momentum oscillators? Yes, we do. We see DMI plus is dominant while the 8x is strengthening. Very, very nice read right there. We also do see that MACD has officially crossed back onto the upside while histogram is obviously increasing as well. So this is all coming alongside a break of a major level. Yes. Now I just want to see it sustained above there, and if these things start to take over at least for another couple of days, then I'd be looking for targets much higher. In fact, where the next targeted region be? Well, we can do that a little bit right here. I mean, this is essentially a reaccumulation phase, something resembling whether you want to call it an ascending triangle, whether you want to call it on the lower term timeframes. I guess you could say that right here as well. I'm just kind of eyeballing it right now. That would have a target right around 1,600 bucks. Now, of course, can things, reformulate over there and reaccumulate and march on higher? Yes, absolutely. Do I think that things would just, stop at 1,600 after breaking onto new all-time highs right around there? Probably not, But at the end of the day, I'd probably be looking for a short-term pullback around that region. And I'm sure that if we throw a fib on it as well, it's going to line up with something around that region. If I had to guess, let's see what we got right here. And what do you know? That would be the two spot extension right there. Let's actually get the whole formation. There we go. So that would be a nice little algo target for a little bit of profit taking. But ultimately, the 2-spot extension is one that very rarely actually produces a long-term reversal. I'd be looking at the 2618 or maybe even the 2414 in this case right here. And both of those are a couple $100 higher, it looks like. So fair enough right there. And realistically, when we look at something like Bitcoin after its big breakout, it didn't just go to the 2-spot 618. It went to it went even above the 4-spot 236, and we had to take a full-on extension from like the whole formation, which we can do on this one as well, but that would be actually well above 2,000 bucks at this price point. So again, long term, does it look good? Yes. Am I thirsty as fuck? Yes, I am. So let me take a sip of this water and let's burn off the early morning crusties here. There we go. Okay, nice one. All right. Okay. That's what I need. A little bit of water feel right there. Okay, anything else that we want to be aware of right here? Yes, of course. Is the 2-day closing today? I believe it is actually. Yes, indeed it is. 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight will be closed. Here would be the next most obvious thing that I'd be looking for if I am going to look for a further extension on this rally within the next 48 hours would be any sort of a closure above the topside trend band right here, or even around it at 1430 to 1440-ish region would look pretty damn good to me. Do we see anything on the 3-day? No, that's not even closing today. That's closing tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. That one's a little bit more muted here, right around 1380-ish region, so going to be a little bit easier to do as well. And also what I want to point out on the 3-day is that we do see 3-day DMI plus dominant with ADX just starting to strengthen as well, and also kind of maintaining its own trend to the upside here, although I wouldn't necessarily use it in that fact. But more importantly, we do see essentially continuation here as you would expect. So all of that looks well and good for Mr. Buterol. And, if I had to call it right now, do I think that it reaches on to new all-time highs? Yes, I do. It's 2,000, within the sites. Yes. Do I think that there's going to be some sort of a short-term pullback at around 1,600? Probably, but short-term pullback within the context of like a weekly trend, probably not going to register all that much, to be fair. Similar to what we're seeing right now at the 1450-ish target that we hit from yesterday. Anyways, go check out Bitcoin as well. I'm curious if there's just anything unique on this chart right now, and we don't really, not really as it is. Looks like we did come down to somewhat of our bottom side area yesterday. I was saying anywhere between about 34 and 35,000. Looks like we came down to yeah, that works. That works rather fine. 34,780. I do think that I could have another like small stab down, just a little bit lower, about 34,000 bucks, or maybe even a little bit below 34,000 bucks. Fulfill another test on the 9 exponential moving average right here, as that has been holding up Bitcoin on this whole run, as you can see, ever since it really did break out, where this changed the whole narrative of the market at around 11,500 bucks in early October. So as long as it's kind of riding above there, hard to hate, of course. And I do want to see a similar signature to what we're seeing on Mr. Buterol on Bitcoin as well, if I'm going to be, more immediately bullish on Bitcoin. Now, of course, that needs to be a tempered statement here, because obviously, I'm bullish on anything that's, in an uptrend. It's just, the trend is your friend at the end of the day. Doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. Everyone wants to do the fucking backwards somersault 360 flip, but trend traders have been making it for as long as possible. And it used to really bother me that it's like, you can define a lower low and a lower high and a higher high and a higher low. It's like, yeah, yeah, and it actually works. It's kind of crazy. Anyways, looking at this right here, what would I be looking at within the next 24 hours? The two day obviously going to be closing. So yes, if we do see the same sort of signature here that we're kind of looking at on Mr. Buterol as well, that would also be good for more immediate, a more immediate continuation drive back to the top side of the range. That would be 40,000 plus. In this case, and I would want to be seeing the DMI plus dominant. Technically right now it is, but this is not like a dominant read, to be fair, and the ADX strengthening as well, and we don't see that just yet. So with that in mind, going to take a little bit of time. You do see kind of the same sort of trending activity here on the ADX as you do see on Mr. Buterol, and that'll be coming in right around this region here as well. So to keep, while I don't necessarily put a lot of weight on something like that, it is going to be a point of consideration, because if I do see the same sort of behavior that we look at Mr. Buterol, then very likely it does follow. But Mr. Buterol probably gets to take the reins of this market for a little bit, and within the context of a rotational market, we get to see Buterol be the leader for the first time in a long time. Actually, Mr. Bitcoin was the leader for for the greater part of the last couple of years, but in this case here, more aggressively over the last few months, as Bitcoin did have that major breakout above $20,000 prior all-time high. Also want to see the MACD switch back around as well. So we have seen the histogram come all the way down on the 2-day. So keep in mind, if that actually does get a negative cross, that would be a little bit concerning. But again, needs to come with a breakage of an actual level. And right now, while it's still in a pretty aggressive uptrend, I wouldn't say that that's actionable in and of itself. And of course, that's also not even the way to use the MACD to begin with. We do have a video on that. That is 100% free on YouTube here. And that would be actionable. Let's say if Bitcoin came back down and cracked below about 31,000 bucks, then yes, that would be quite concerning, and we could start to talk about targets towards 23 to 24,000 bucks. But right now, no, everything just looks more or less like a nice healthy sideways consolidation as it is. Anything on the daily as well, we do see bottom side shoulder band coming in where below 31,000 bucks. I mean, could we potentially come all the way down there? It's not really looking very likely at this exact moment right here. But more importantly, what I want to put the focus on right here is something that we referenced yesterday. Daily MACD for Bitcoin coming way the fuck down right now. Way the fuck down. So I look at this as more or less a bullish reset, as Bitcoin is literally just putting in higher lows right here. Yes, we do have a lower high right here, but that's within the context of a greater uptrend. So that is, well, your consolidation. You could also look at this in some way as, well, some people are charting this as a symmetrical triangle. Some people are charting this as a descending triangle. I'm actually of no opinion on that one. I just look at this as sideways consolidation. It doesn't need a fucking name on it, to be honest with you. Anyways, what do we see on DMI ADX for the daily? We do see a similar read that we just identified on Bureau a couple days ago, which would be the daily DMI plus. If that one gets dominant, which right now the DMI minus and the DMI plus are right fucking next to each other. So we don't have an actionable read as it is right now, and the ADX actually starts strengthening, which today it is not, to be fair. It is not today. Then that would be another good indication of, you know, a directional bias on this right now, but we don't have it just yet. It's very fucking close. Actually, technically speaking, the DMI minus is a little bit closer right now, but the ADX, but without the ADX strengthening, I don't look at this as, again, actionable. And I want to see all of those moving parts working together before I start to have more of a bias on immediate direction for Bitcoin. Still just kind of a sideways market here. Anyways, into the regular charts we go, and what do we see? Let's go over here to a daily, and yeah, we can chart it off pretty simply right here, just using that 1300 pivot. Actually a little bit technically a few bucks lower than that, but we'll just say 1300 right here. As long as Mr. Bureau is above that, I essentially have an upside bias, and we do see that momentum oscillators are falling through as well, at least for now. We do see daily Stokes will remain to the upside. Guess where? Guess above which level? 1305, 1306 region, so pretty damn good right there, meaning that if if Bureau does close today's daily below there, not only will we break a structural level, but also we'll see momentum turn back onto the downside. That would drive targets back down to the 21 here, somewhere at about 1150-ish region. Now again, do I think that that's what's happening? Probably not, but if that were to happen, that would drive my next buys for a potential trade, although I don't trade this asset to begin with. And realistically, the last 2 to 3 months now, I really haven't been trading all that much. I made a few trades last week, but that was the first time in the last 2 to 3, in the last like 2 months, I'd say. I mostly just been a hodler here, as this is kind of a hodler's market right now. Trade low-term timeframes on Forex, that's fine, but in Bitcoin land, just seems like it's a better opportunity cost right now. Also just kind of nice to take it easier every once in a while too. Looking at daily RSI, what do we see? Back above the exponential, playing out that hidden bullish divergence. I would say that move is certainly already played out, but what do we see now? Well, we see a nice interplay with that exponential on it. So as long as it's above, I do still like this. Technically, all these conditions are being met as of this moment in time. But again, very, 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 very critical, that $1,300 level. If that level does break to the downside, then, you know, we can talk about greater pullbacks. But for now, all good, except for the volume signature on this. This is not breakout volume. This is not what you're looking for. This is not the breakout that you're looking for, to quote an old man. But in this case right here, you know, what I'd be looking for next to really confirm like the next melt up move towards those more deep targets that we just spoke about would be this. I want to see volume start to pour in. I want to see it get at the very least back above this moving average on it. You know, something akin to what we saw back over here on this breakout would be pretty damn good. And then yes, we can start to, you know, talk about $2,000 plus, probably even 3,000 is going to be on the board. I mean, again, with Bitcoin going pretty much a 2x off of the prior all-time high, you have to think that altcoins, or you don't have to think, but altcoins very likely being more emotional little brothers to Bitcoin are probably gonna have potentially greater rallies than that in this case. So with that in mind, let's go down to the 12-hour, see what we got going on over here. 12-hour in danger of printing maybe a little bit of a high, but I wouldn't say it's there just yet. Problem would be though is that bearish divergence would be confirmed if this does confirm as a local high. It is not confirmed as a local high just yet. Closing below basically about 1300 would do it. So again, 1300 now coming up in multiple places, not just on our not just on our Trollender band charts, but also on our regular charts over here. And what do we see over here on 12-hour momentum oscillators? They actually will cross down with any sort of a closure, basically where we are at right now. Wouldn't be a death sentence in and of itself, but also wouldn't necessarily be the most the best thing to happen of all time. Let's go over here to the 4-hour. What do we see right here? Fighting it off right now. Not really seeing anything completely unique from this time frame. So I think it's time to go into Bitcoin and talk a little bit more specifically about it. So let's go back on over here. And let's see Bitcoin coming down to the 21 exponential average on the daily. Once again, I'd be looking for a bounce off this region. Does Bitcoin have more short-term downside potentially though? Let's go through the lower-term timeframes as it is right now. Possibly yes. You know, if it does want to take a leg down to that $33,500 to $32,500 level, completely fine as well. That wouldn't really put anything too out of order here. Looking at momentum oscillators right now, we do see that 4-hour Stokes are very much angled to the downside as long as Bitcoin is below 37,669, which, you know, will put pressure onto the downside for the short-term timeframes, at least for now. But more importantly, we are seeing HVP contract through this whole move. Again, It's very obviously consolidation phase. The question is this reaccumulation or are we seeing distribution? And I would say that this is first and foremost reaccumulation, mostly because we do have that higher low structure, but also referencing the open interest back on over here. That has been steadily rising as Bitcoin does pick itself off the lows for the last few moves, and typically does come down when Bitcoin plays off the pullbacks within the context of this current range. So I still like that overall, and I'd be looking for 4-hour HVP to get down to the teens, maybe even single digits, as we've been saying over the last few days, before I look for the next breakout or technically breakdown as well. I mean, still very much possible, obviously, but the levels are very well set here, very well documented, and to the upside, I'd be calling a breakout with any sort of a 4-hour close, technically above $40,000. If you want to be super conservative, you'd probably wait for $41,000 right here, but just taking out this prior high right here would be pretty damn good, and I'd be looking for targets into the deeper $40,000 region, probably even $50,000 overall. Into the downside on a 4-hour, this one's a little bit different here, but that would be about 31,000 to the downside. If you're looking at a daily, you could use a bit of a higher level at about $32,000, as long as that level does hold on a daily closure. I don't really see any major mega bearishness coming into play here just yet, but if that were to be met, as we did speak about earlier, then that would start to drive targets down, at least for myself, and this is not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor, but that would drive targets down towards these major levels that were relevant on the way up, right around here between about 23,000 and 24,000 bucks. Yes, I do have several other horizontals in here, but that's just because my charts, for whatever reason, don't like to save. Now they probably do, play off on extremely short-term timeframes, but I wouldn't be putting any weight on those, and I certainly would not be playing them myself. I'd try to be a patient, good boy, patient little trader. How about that? Yeah. Anyways, so for right now, 4-hour, a little bit more angle to the downside, but let's match that up with what 3 hours doing and what we see on the 3-hour. 3 are coming down pretty aggressively now too. Basically same areas what we see on the 4-hour. As long as we're below 37,350, then it is downside angled, and we do see that 3-hour RSI is actually significantly downside angled here. In the short term, that is. And what do we see? The 200 simple and 200 exponential average coming in where? 33.5 region. So if it does want to take another leg down, that's where I'd kind of be looking for, and another subsequent bounce around that region as well. Very similar read to what we see on the 4-hour HVP as to what we get on the 3-hour. So all's well and good right there. I'm still looking for this to contract a little bit more before I actually look for an actual move. So that means that while Bitcoin does come back down and kind of test the lower end of this range, this is coming on decreasing volatility. So again, it's not really like a breakout move that I'm looking for. It's still within the context of this consolidation. Now, I'm sure people are looking at this, the bullish people are looking at this as some sort of like either ascending triangle or symmetrical triangle. I wouldn't even put a triangle in this region right here. I'd just go off of levels actually. So I'm not even going to chart it out because I don't think that's, I just wouldn't do that myself. So why would I do that right there? It's like I want to give credence to the people who are talking like that, but at the same time, it's like, well, I wouldn't fucking do that, so why am I showing that? Anyways, buy hourly, what do we see right here? Buy hourly Stokes coming down very aggressively now. Will remain to the downside as long as we're below 36,160 on this next closure, coming in about 47 minutes and 41 seconds. So fair enough right there. Again, all lower term timeframes are in concert right now. Buy hourly RSI. Probably just bounce off the edge of the bearish control zone there. Actually, we do have this trend line coming in right here. So a little bit of a short-term bounce, probably implied off this region. But short-term bounce within the context of a consolidation move is, not really anything worth writing home about, at least in my experience. And what do we see on buy hourly HVP? Same shit over here, just following the progression down. Very likely does come down into the single digits once again, and I imagine that the hourly might even already be there. In fact, yeah, it did get there, but the hourly is not really speaking towards the greater narrative of the whole contraction phase right here. It's speaking more towards like this segment right here, as you can see. Anyways, this one's actually coming in on expanding volatility right now, so fair enough. We probably do get a short-term move according to the hourly, but what our hourly momentum also is suggesting right now, we actually will flip back onto the upside above 35,300, but this is a bit of the odd man out right now, and that does imply that we're likely to see, again, just more sideways action in Bitcoin land right now. What about hourly RSI? Not really getting much out of this. I still actually think it's constructive on the whole, but short term, Short term probably does try another small downside move perhaps. Anyways, into the medium term time frames we go. What do we see over here? 12-hour Stokes did not give that closure that we were looking for yesterday, actually. Well, at least to have a more immediate bias to the upside, but but that is that is quite normal in a ranging market here now, isn't it? Anyways, 37,250 is the magical number for this one. Downside angle as long as we're below there. On the next closure coming in 6 hours and 46 minutes and 2 seconds. And motherfucker, man, my my voice is just abysmal today. Apologies for this one. Nails on the chalkboard and raspy lesbian at full effect. I'll take another swig of this water here and let's see how this helps. Oh, still taking the crusties out of my eyes too. Ooh, man, it's a weird morning. Feels like a weird morning. Anyways, what do we see on 12-hour RSI? Not getting anything out of this actually at all. You know, we do have this trend line coming in here. Hey, no, not a pitchfork, but we have a trend line coming in right around here. So we will test it very likely on the next tick there. But that also imply that, you know, we have a little bit of downside pressure until then. And looking at 12-hour, you know, could we have an easy target down anywhere around the 55 exponential moving average? Yep, completely fine. So again, you know, would I remain downside going in the short-term timeframes? Yeah, I mean, I'm basically a broken record over the last few days. Bitcoin range between about 37,500 and 33 to 34,000 to the downside, and I've been looking for this, you know, for this next move to the downside over the last couple of days. Finally happened right now. It's just a slower market right now. That's really it. What else do we have to look at here, though? 12-hour HVP coming down very aggressively now, actually very, very aggressively, in fact, but nothing too actionable as it is right now. What about daily? Daily Stokes were made to the downside, so we did not get that critical closure that we spoke about yesterday. Remember this trend line right here coming in from late September to early December, and then once again right here in middle of January of the year 2021. This one does look like it's going to fail, unless if we do see, you know, a major move to the upside by end of day. That would be 38,400. If that does happen, it actually will reverse right fucking here and pop back up. If that were to happen, that would be the most obvious signal that Bitcoin is going to not just be more immediately bullish, but it would be an obvious signal for targeting back up towards here, towards about 40,000 to 41,000 bucks. So that is a $3,000 move, and a pretty easy one if that condition were to be met. Now, of course, got a lot of work to do before end of day, but there's also 18 hours, 43 minutes, and 51 seconds left before that is relevant. So if that were to happen immediately, I would start to look at this as as a threatening posture for an actual upside breakout once again. But for now, assuming that that condition is not met by end of day, meaning that this closes anywhere below, then I'd be looking for it to come all the way down to the to the lower end of the neutral zone, or the upper end of the bearish control zone, which is anywhere right around here, at which point I would be looking for another potential bottom to be put in. And obviously that would come alongside of a further bias to the downside right here in the short term, which, probably does test somewhere between about 33 and 34,000 bucks. But for right now, just bouncing upon the 21 exponential average once again. I don't really have any major issues with that, and I respect it as it is. So if we were to come up with ranges on the short-term timeframes, where would I put them? I mean, basically the same shit as before. If you're looking at closures right here, 34.5, we already kind of tested that one in the early morning hours, it looks like, right before I woke up. And underneath there, we got 33,700. That's a big one. However, if that one does break, I would start to extend moves all the way down to the 200 exponential average right here, which is going to be coming in somewhere around about 32,000 bucks, probably a little bit later today if I had to guess. So those would be the major levels to be aware of as it is right now. Basically just this one right here and this one right here. Breaking below this level right here would certainly start to be very problematic, although I wouldn't necessarily constitute an actual breakout to the downside. That doesn't come on a 4 hour until we break below about 31,000 bucks, but it would start to really gear the biases towards a downside breakout overall, while it probably does imply a short-term bounce off that level. So again, heavily nuanced here, but one thing before the next. And my main message right now is that there's no real rush for Bitcoin at the current moment. It's all eyes on Mr. Buteral, actually. And of course, Buteral working its way upwards and onwards is likely to benefit the whole market, Bitcoin included. So all of these things typically do work together. And right now it just seems to me like Mr. Buteral is the leader, so to speak. Anyways, do we say anything on the 2-day or the 3-day as it is? 2-day. No, not really. 3-day. No, not really. So fair enough. Anyways, go over and check out traditional markets. I'm curious what they're doing right now. How deep it... Oh my God, we're already 20 minutes into this video. Traditional markets also kind of bailing it out as well. We did say yesterday back up to 1,300 plus. And we're back up to 1300 plus. I would look for this to not just test the prior all-time high at about 13 to 120-ish region, but very likely make new all-time highs. I'm still got my eyes on 13,150 based off of this pattern target going all the way back on over here from, I think this was September to November. Yeah, breakout a little bit later in November. And also in line with the 2-spot extension from a Fibonacci base between that whole level as well. That's going to be your 13,150-ish target. Do I think that thing stopped there? Probably not. Again, it's the 414 and the 618 that are going to be the big ones to the upside. That's 13.6 and 13.8 respectively. So I would keep my eyes on there more long term. Probably does play off these other algo targets just for short-term pullbacks and whatnot, but as this is all happening, we do see daily Stokes once again crossing back onto the upside, maintaining the bullish control zone. Very, very nice right there. Daily RSI giving you hidden bullish divergence at the same time. It's a fucking uptrend. It's a fucking uptrend on increasing volatility. So I'd be looking for this trend to continue in that same direction, and in those targets still in mind. So with that said, let's go and check out SPY futures. Not as strong, actually. Certainly not as strong here. But I'd probably say about the same thing on it. It looks to me like NASDAQ is now going to be the rotational leader for a little bit, and SPY, probably does get a chance back onto its prior all-time high. I think that we have a similar targeted region as we did for NASDAQ here too. Yeah, the 2-spot 414 is going to be 38.75 region. I'm basically looking for, for a move anywhere around 38.50 to 38.75-ish region, and probably is a little bit of a short-term stop right there. Same shit that we see on our momentum oscillators. Daily RSI giving you hidden bullish divergence, actually 1, 2, 3 stabs, so short-term up. And daily Stokes, what do we see right here? They will cross the upside once again with any sort of a closure above 38.01. Currently trading 37.93 and 3/4. So if you see that condition met by end of day, that'll be a pretty damn good signature that, well, I'd be looking north towards those levels again on increasing volatility. Or actually, this one's not necessarily expanding just yet. Wouldn't say that, but NASDAQ's certainly the more obvious chart right now. And again, in these world markets where everything's pretty much correlated with each other because they all trade against US dollar base, does that mean it, it likely benefits the major cryptos, aka Bitcoin? Probably yes. So, world markets and just the general environment also conducive to this more or less constructive sideways phase that likely does have another upside resolution. Now, I haven't really talked about upside targets on Bitcoin if it breaks out here, but that's just I don't really think it's it's going to do it today. But it's the same shit as what we spoke about before. I think it was 45 or 46,000 bucks is the next relevant level to the upside. Then we got 52,000 bucks and then 60,000 bucks. So there you go. Let's pull the surprise. Again, I don't think it's happening today, so I don't think it's really relevant to talk about right now. What about some alts versus Bitcoin here? DOT, whatever the fuck this thing is, dot is what I say when people say, "Hey, Krown, can you look at DOT?" It's like probably short-term down, but I mean, what do you make out of a chart that's only been here for half a year? Not much. Probably does retest the prior all-time high and go beyond over time, but short-term probably is a little bit of downside. Do I feel all that compelled by that? No, I don't. Uni putting in a little bit of a local high right here. Probably look for it to trade down short term, maybe back down to like 22,000 Satoshi base. But with the rest of the market kind of working its way up, does this one actually have a reversal of trend here? It does, in fact. So fair enough. I'd be looking for that level to get picked up then and probably try another move to a new high in this run, likely towards where the next level be, somewhere around about 31,000 Satoshis. Nice one. Actually, that's the one that I really want to check out, Mr. Beto versus Bitcoin over here. Yeah, very, 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 very good. Again, the Golden Cross getting some lift off, and I really want to kind of focus down on this one because this was a big focus of last week's analysis as we did get the Golden Cross right here. Right here exactly. That's the green 55 and the purple 200, and tested once, tested twice. So far, so good. More importantly, those are on higher wicks, and all major moving averages are now upside sloped and looking pretty damn good here. So I look at this as playable. Daily RSI, very healthy, very good, very constructive over the long period of time now, although it was certainly shaky before, but this is now really confirming it as a good read. And daily Stokes, nice and erect here too. The problem with that though is that Well, I don't really look for Stokes to kind of get a trending move like this, of which I really look for the weekly to kind of take over soonish, as the weekly is going to have a chance to fully reverse the trend by closing above 3,674,000 Satoshis if that condition is met, which looks very fucking likely to be met, especially considering that we do have hidden bullish divergence coming off the last low, and we do have weekly Stokes in a completely, in a very healthy posture right here as well. I'll be looking for this next move to bring it all the way up towards the 200 simple here, which is going to be somewhere at about a little bit above 4,300,000 Satoshis, and then probably further up over time. This is looking like the reversal is real again on increasing volatility. All of these point towards more upside here. So I would be looking for Mr. Beardall to really take the reins actually quite a fair bit. But do we see the same thing on like Litecoin? Because this one looks just fucking abysmal not long ago. Yeah, it still looks bad. The thing is, though, is this thing going to like fall further while we do see Buteral and company rally? Probably not. But this one, just trying to hold on to the lows right now. So it certainly is of a weaker cut. What about Ripple? Same shit. Very, 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 very weak. Just trying to hold on to its lows while everything else gets to rally. That's not a good sign. Does it get its chance at some point in time? Probably yes. And then people go, oh my God, I got plus 20%, plus 30%. I've done it. I'm rich. It's like, yes. Now you just need another 10,000% before you get back to break even, right? No, I don't mean to shit on someone like that, but more importantly, it's just, it can be very deceptive, like when people post things like that, because for the most part, we do see constructive rallies over a long period of time for a lot of the bigger cryptos, like Ethereum, like Bitcoin, and that is hard to just nail down in just one day's worth of gains, right? Whereas like an altcoin will, usually rally more violently for a shorter time, and then overall, is it more or less in comparison? Usually less. So it's deceptive in the way that people kind of post this a lot of the time, and I see this rather frequently around the Twitter sphere. It's like people will post their altcoin portfolios, and it's like all green. And it's like, you're seeing like plus 10, plus 20, plus 30%. It's like, whoa, this is amazing. But, you look at it within the context of the actual fucking chart. It's like, okay, so what are you hiding here, man? It looks a little bit strange. Or perhaps I'm missing something there. Let's see, what is Cardano looking like? Reversal here as well. You can't really be bearish on a lot of these ones, at least versus their Satoshi parents. What about daily? Yeah, it probably does work its way up here as well. So we do see a lot of these still kind of fighting it off. What about Link? Link I actually really don't like here on the daily. Now, technically speaking, I should be looking for a bounce at about 54,000 Satoshis, and then probably does try and move towards 80 or 90,000 Satoshis, but I can get really fucking bearish on this one again. It must, okay, I shouldn't say must, but it'd be very nice for it to hold 54,000 Satoshis on a weekly basis. If that actually does start to break to the downside, we can talk about big retracements here, big fucking retracements. So I'm talking about down to like 20,000 Satoshis, but is that looking very likely right now? Probably not. Or at least that wouldn't be my first read on it. And I still do like this breakout volume over here, so I'd give it a chance, although short-term probably does have a little bit of a short-term downside move. Let's call it like 52,000 Satoshis and probably bounce there. Okay, all right. I haven't checked out Caretaker's ranges. What is he looking at? Actually, he just called that wick down to 34.5. Not bad. And a bounce up here. What is he saying for target? 52. Jesus Christ, man. I really can't see right now. 35.5. Jesus, man. Oh my God. I am really a mess in the morning. Okay, cool. What else do we have to look at? Let's go back on over here. I think it's time to wrap this bitch up, and I think we'll do the main focus on Mr. Buteral, because, if I'm going to be bullish on Mr. Buteral, then I'm going to be bullish on Bitcoin. It's just that simple, really. Let's put on a fib extension right here, too. Just want to be able to reference it on this chart as well, and we'll do it like so. Okay, nice one. Okay, sweet. All right, beautiful, lovely. Let's actually get this into visual view and get rid of you. Okay, do we have that level? Do we have that level? Yes, okay, excellent. All right, beautiful. Lovely, awesome, well, good. And let's actually mark off some of these with horizontals too. So we did hit our yesterday target in the low 1440s. Next one would be about 15 for an algo target, and then we can talk about big moves up, big legs up. All right, cool. And then back on over here, let's go over to Mr. Buteral, but which chart exactly do I want? Let's go with this long-term one right here. All right, there we go. And then we go, what's the top side on the daily right now? Yeah. Okay. Just below 1500. Okay. Excellent. Excellent, sir. Very excellent. All right. Let's actually start it right here. Okay, let's wrap this bitch up. Buterol, the star of the day, the last couple days actually, and Buterol's gonna have a chance on the 2-day to close above the top side Toronto band once again. If that does indeed get confirmed, I would be looking for a further melt up on this price action to the later targets in the upper, well, basically about 2,000 plus, and that would be this. Any sort of a 2-day closure above 1465 at the end of today, that would be 7 p.m. Eastern time, then yes, I would be looking for the next melt up move. So far, so good. Momentum oscillators on our secondary charts also looking pretty damn good as well. MACD histogram once again increasing, and more importantly, the ADX is now showing that it is strengthening while the DMI plus is dominant. So all these things very, very good together. And right now, you know, do I have a further upside bias on this? Yes, pretty much. I mean, we could also say that yesterday we essentially did confirm an actual breakout to the upside by breaking back above about 1,300 bucks on a daily total closure. Problem is though, is that volume on this is not supportive, not suggestive of an actual efficacious breakout just yet, but I would treat it as such as long as that condition is met. The reason why I say that, and again, that condition actually just being closing above 1,300, and the reason I say that is because if we do see a move back down below 1,300, we actually will see daily stocks cross back down below 1,300. We will see daily stocks cross to the downside with any sort of a closure below 1,300. That's what I'm trying to say. Jesus Christ, man. Sorry, my early morning voice is just terrible right now. Apologies. So that would mean momentum turning down while we have, technically speaking, a swing failure pattern. Now, if that were to happen, I would immediately target 1140 to 1150-ish region. I don't think that that's going to happen, but that would be my criteria for failure. As long as that condition is not met, I'm essentially bullish on Ethereum, looking for the next upside targets to be met. We did hit our target yesterday at about 1450-ish region. I would say that that one's already played off, and we did see a little bit of a pullback from that. That's essentially what we're looking at right now. And I look for the next set of targets to get hit again, as long as 1300 is held up on a daily. No less, no more. Well, more would also be okay too. but the next relevant level from a fib extension perspective would be the 414 right here, just around 1,500 bucks. Now that's also not a big one. Typically things do play and consolidate between these two as algos kind of figure things out, and then ultimately, and again, kind of using Bitcoin as a bit of a roadmap here too, I would be looking towards the 2.272 and the 2.618 as the next major targets. That's going to be 1,800 to about 1,900 right here. And realistically, what we did see on Bitcoin on that breakout from about 20,000 bucks, which we can reference back and over here, I'd be looking for something similar to happen on Mr. Buterol as well. Whoops, I'm on the wrong chart right here. But essentially this, in the sense that, you know, spends about a few weeks consolidating below the $20,000 prior all-time high. That was right around here. And then boom, major move up. And while I don't necessarily have it in there anymore, this was a 100% move on top of the prior all-time high, which Mr. Buterol right now just entering into new all-time highs, aka price discovery, you know, kind of have to respect that for a greater extension over time as well. And it's like, would it be likely to kind of fail and reverse right around the 2.618? I would say rather unlikely, although in other markets, you know, you could certainly make that that argument. But in this market right here, I'd say it'd be a little bit uncharacteristic, as we typically do see things move together. Now, of course, with Buterol doing well, does that bode well for Bitcoin? Yes, of course it does. And I forgot to mention this as well. The weekly obviously setting the tone for Mr. Buterol and into looking for new all-time highs, which we're seeing right now as well. So all of these things working together, and so far so good. Now, do we want to take a quick look at Bitcoin? We can go over Bitcoin levels really quickly. We did hit our downside target from yesterday, right below 35,000 bucks in the upper $34,000 region, of which, you know, still a sideways market in Bitcoin, as long as it's above the 21 exponential moving average on the daily, which is 34.5. More or less fine. I don't look at this as anything more than just a healthy sideways consolidation, as we do let our lower term time frame momentum oscillators kind of cool off here. I'd be keeping a specific eye on 4-hour HVP, as if we do see it come down to the teens, and especially in the single digits, that's when I actually do start to look for a breakout or breakdown. In this case, I'm, you know, obviously more biased to the upside. But if Bitcoin were to break on a 4-hour, let's call it below 31,000 bucks, yes, I would become bearish. Looking for moves down to 23 to 24,000 bucks. By the same token, if we do see any sort of a closure I'd even say above 40,000 bucks right here. Also the 886 fib extension, or sorry, fib retracement. Then I'd be looking towards the next set of targets to the upside. That's going to be the 272 right here at about 44,000. Then we got the 45.5 at the 414. Same sort of interpretations on these. Very unlikely that these actually do produce real reversals. I'd ultimately be looking north of 50,000 bucks with specific interest on this 2618 right here at 58,000 bucks, as Bitcoin does seem to have a proclivity to play off that one very, very often in its history. As it stands right now, though, is there anything major to be looking at Bitcoin right now? I mean, I just think Mr. Buterin is a little more interesting right now, and and if Buterin does continue the upside, which looks like it probably does, then I'd be airing the probabilities of Bitcoin doing the same thing. There is one thing that would make me very immediately bullish on Bitcoin, and that is this: any sort of a daily closure above this level, 38,400, which would force the daily Stokes to cross back onto the upside again, aka momentum turning back onto the upside, would also fulfill this trend line test coming in from our September lows to our December lows, and then once again our middle of January lows right here. That would be very significant because these are all of the sideways consolidations that we've seen on the daily for the last like 4 to 5 months, or 5 to 6 months actually, more accurately now. And this is again this trend line again is related to this level right here at about 10,000 10,250, then again right here at about 18,000 bucks, and then right here prospectively again at 38,000 bucks. So this is obviously getting more aggressive over time as momentum essentially increases over time, which is a very good thing. But for right now, that condition would have to be met actually before closure tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. If that is met, I'd immediately get bullish for a move back up to a little bit north of 40,000, 41,000 bucks, and then have to be looking for a breakout at that point in time. But I do think, just based off the lower term timeframes, Bitcoin probably has at least a little bit more time stuck within this range between the low $30,000 region, the in the low $40,000 region, and assuming that Buterin takes over from here, I'd be looking for them all to kind of play together over time. So with that said, I do want to wish you the best and the happiest. Take care, and until next time.